Labra fóir scach ní go sól Sgamar de slione gui suspir Vivian go glór Lonrochtoch agus comóráur síl go lé.
My name is Rory O'Hare. I am a grand-nephew of both Liam and Tom Ó Flaithearta and a son of Brendan O'Hare, who's also a well-known writer from these islands. It's a great pleasure to be here this year to launch this new collection of material by Tom Ó Flaithearta, which has been put together by Éamon Ó Ciosáin and is a particularly valuable collection. It's the first material generally available in Irish, written by Tom Ó Flaithearta. And in fact, even the English language material is extremely difficult to find these days, as both the books have been out of print for a long time.
Éamon Ó Ciosáin agurthóir in leabhar An Bhrachlainn Mhór scéalta le Tomás Ó Flaithearta seolú ag Féile nó bhFlaitheartach anseo in Anois Mór 2019. Bhailim dír buchas a hábhail le go leor daoine cúna leis leabhar seo. Leabhar í seo a bhí a thulmhaigh Tomás Ó Flaithearta nar Cailliú, bhí Tomás a scríomh, bhí sé réite ceithre leabhar sna blianta dearnacha solar Cailliú. Tom Ó Flaithearta, as some people know, was preparing 4 books, was working on 4 books for publication, some of them well advanced at the time of his death in 1936, and this is one of the collections which he originally envisaged of those 4 books.
The stories in this particular book were collected together, pieced together from handwriting, handwritten manuscripts, from articles and stories published in the Irish press, in Unclive Sulish, and in a number of various American publications for which Tom Ó Flaithearta wrote. So Éamon has done great work putting all of these together, editing them, making sure that they're ready for publication, and they give a really valuable insight into the ideas and thoughts of Tom Ó Flaithearta, but especially because it also contains 3 chapters from an unfinished novel that was recently discovered in Notre Dame University that Tom had been writing on, and this is the first time we've ever come across anything other than short stories by Tom Ó Flaithearta. So it means for the first time, because people have been interested in Tom but had relatively little access to material written by him, we now have a compendium of short stories, mostly in Irish, 1 in English, 3 chapters from an unfinished novel, and a variety of other short pieces by Tom Ó Flaithearta, which provide an extraordinarily valuable insight, as well as being just genuinely enjoyable and well-written short stories in their own right.
Daoine eile a chun hón seos bhú cúig scríomhann réamhrá gon leabhar seo Fhearann Cló Iar-Chonnacht a rinne job profisiúnta sin Mhic Cónaíla, Lochlainn ó Tuairisc, Déireann í Thuairisc agus Bridget Bhreanach rinne obair mhathir. Tá buchas le a gáil go éidirn bhróthe sí éidirn leabharlannaí na lámhscríbhnaí Gaeilge in Ollscoil Notre Dame America agus thug sí cúna fíorthábhachtach go leabhar seo ní bheith leatháin marachí. Bhailim freisin buchas ghlacha leis dearma le go thugólas agus tagairt gon obair seo, daoine bhí réite ceistnaí teang go lámhscríbhnaí agus ólas áitiúil nós morid níothir, cha go leor amla mar telefón, Brian ó Caháin fanóla ní chun ceann a bhíon slín Choirce agus Déireann í Chonaíla mar a chéile, Martin ó chun ceann, Máirín Mhic Lochlainn a bhí obair agus a tuairt cúna freisin. Agus Cumann Ó Flaitheartach as an sprága a thug siad go obair seo ní bheith an leabhar seo an, ceapan bhíon tábhar seo agam le fada ach leis an iarnaí ana níos amach seo tucaí chomh fada seo am ach bé an cóladúir tainneoch léanta sprága le bhíon an seo in Anois Mór Choirce mílún sa Choirce agus deire hárad an duine chuir síos a bóthir seo mé i chéad lá riamh tóg go mo cheartta i luas sin Brendan O'Hare. Rory O'Hare I heolann leabhar seo agus sé Brendan a chuir dro an téarnach mé páp ar bhna Tomás Ó Flaithearta in éanacht le Mahana ar hain Sean Beaumont.
Well, tá bud seo le láirt faoin leabhar seo agus bhí muid fánach le Éamon Híl me se go Éamon go le láirteach sé a dút sé go chuid caint díontar Máirín Ui nó bá. Sin fearnis nach go chud focla mó. Réchaí mar hesin ní bheith leorán agus mar sin dé. Tá ní me scéal fad a faoinis agus hí láint sin gomáin nach rá agus bhrárad go fear gon chinne sin nó gon bhainte sin in Lochlainn le láintseil. Réchaí ní chun mu sibanis mar beidir go sin na bhór báistí go gairid ní bhecha sad agus stohí go bhar hí cainte sin inniu bí go ghearcéal seo Pádhraic ghearcéal se dá se na dhé. Úrscéal. Nábal sin éród. Réchaí Báram go ra agus saní ha dearm de cinteile. Léithe Máirín inis písa sin capital ceir sa leabhar má bhíonn se bá léamh ríist. Raitó.
Tháinig Pádhraic an was go chár agus siúlte isteach go dtíon teach. Bhí garí diris híomh na láimhe deise agus garí ní slúna sin is teach beg híomh na láimhe clé. Chuoine se go má an nuair na rosanáit ran na garantaí ach carrigechaí móra. Chur sé héin agus na carrigechaí an néir le púdar, agus bhrí siad na písaí le áirt. Burí sa bhrean an náitinis. Bhí crán fásta gáneal do garí ó dimise, si bháid a chud an crán. Héine crínte agus pásaí diabhle. Bhí cleachta ceirb na bhí sin na cailín beg. Is beg din an árainn a chud pásaí ná crínte beg go timppla le áras. Chuir dúis fataí chulig gidan agus níor bhhailób gita talún gá laid a chud mú le rudaí mar pásaís nach bhéach duine ná beich brabach a bhaintíb. Thuspáin a bháid crínte beg go bhí le tíomh le rúbailte timppla tí go Pádhraic. As mór an náilecht iad sa saoran ar bhís blá ar buidir sí go bródúil. Me héine chudiad. Ní ra an láidíomh nar haine rudaí déasa le idir Pádhraic. Bhí tinna chrúsach bhún ar I tealach agus I citte le fechan nuair a tháinig siad a bhhaile. Thug beangan na cuasain éidir gon teach chuide sa bhí siad go rúnain. Nuair a tháinig Pádhraic isteach, déire leiscóir go heamhrá an bhhaile go stólta agus cairechaí agus chuidir fáilte a bheith. A bhacha tú Pádhraic séine, nó máire séine, nó bríd, nó mártaí Bhrechlainn nó líam. Sinní cheiste bhí ag chuile dhuine. Bégan go Pádhraic éadmháil nach bhacha sé mór an áran America le fada. Báisina tíri agus ní chor mór an go bhaintir áran bastan. Agus ó bhuine Pádhraic nar haile leis fannacht do bhada náiteir be siúilte farmhór na tíre. Is am mé bun cruige óchaisteach Americaidir sé. Bhí deach iad cúnaí am mun cruige nuair a dag Pádhraic an baile. Seachas san éidir eile títí bega ina gunnítí, fataí, turnaps, mangels, féirtéirim, tí agus rudaí eile a heisteach ó eileméar beg agus iascuide. I trí cín go na tí seo ní ra a chéan duine bháin an ach ceannachab. Bhí ó chearar go dúirsa go deile. Nuair a tháinig siad a déanta chéile ba bhór a slóiad. Bhí na bhí chéanna títhe fósan ach ní ra léir a dtíine ógáin agus a bhíoch. Go dibhinn ní ra ánanis ach seandaine agus gasúid. Á go neoch Americáir mar a bhí sé, is geargamach na seandaine héna gáilint dáláin, I déir Pádhraic ó Caoile an fídóid. Is beg nach bheith tá rá nach bhfuil aon duine sé do máile is sem lecha éis céine warú. Ní lech cóirhainn seo a bhí na gasúr na a dag mis an baile déir Pádhraic. Ar go America cho siad a leog. Is ána chóbarmhór déir a fídóid, a cho chu decha ban áram a tíirtáid. Cuid go na bachalíoga. Léad a linsa is cóirhainn a haich san áram, mar ní an a charam an tasannaí, agus banáide chun rud go aróg dar an áram an náhaid. Díireach daoine gur éon rud céine, gur annan aram an tírstáit agus aram hasanna, ach ní cheapan sin. Cile ha an taram se dear Pádhraic, inis ní se chofrusta an cheist sin i tagairt agus a hílocht in i deir an fídóid. Is léir go ghine edbit nach bhéit tre cúcht hasan a rhaid. Agus is dói nach dúrach tíreid be eile iarracht canas a áile réirin. Is dói freisin nach dúrach éide faidan faoi híreid be eile. Agus ní le tíreid be eile chur faoin na smacht a hestín an taram ó rialtas an tírstáit. Beidir go lemuintir na héiran na felle mé í began na hiascurí gus na firaibre chuneal faoi smachta tá siad idir Pádhraic. Well an fídar a weis faoin na lún. Sinní níar a warocha wicid a sé. Siad na bacíní se tá ganas na tíre se fós, agus ní fólar hóp aram a bhecap lena go mín a chosint. Ach nach í bhfuil sé chola híd ar a dain. Sin nach í bhfuil sé mar si idir Pádhraic. Chrunne rasamáil isteach agus riniu brion betalarab. Riniu te go rialtas bail amach agus a tháinig cuairtaigh i dhéang. Bhí fón chuile ghine an irid fásne se sa déitadí se áil ar an síl America. Agus be barúil Pádhraic go mmalfií húvar san elections. Bhí súla gach duine go ngáchan Democrat Roosevelt isteach. Is mó simid i efo bhí ag muintir áran faoin síl America ná néirin. Mar pebi cechimach na mar agus asanna, fadas bheith hobad ag cailín i Hampshire am astran, ní och muintir áran, ar a cailín lecab America bás leis an ocras. Bhíoch na cailín ní sé caimhlinn le chéile ag churéide go bhile. Tealach be ar a ceir nó cógeres America, bhí se chumá is gameach brabach cartúr talún ag teachta stechan. Sinne gameach am a cailín i Hampshire, maidir le fér, mar an éireach loblal san gardú síchanna nó aber gon tórsin, ní roi sacab cennéid a bheith pái ag teachta stechachab. Bhí se ráite an áran go raid dí ar híhaintí a míoch mac nó óán agus a chuid eile inínachaí. Achas minic a fós na hinínachaí America salráidir blian nó ó hall. Agus bhop sin ní hegach téada, mar a bósa dís garda síchanna. Beanir bifar garda bhí sí sefydd cheaptaí. Nis sinna chuir sé America, mar a bhí se chola híd ar dain. Ní chuirú éon chuimse fid nám rá ar fáí, mar a gapach an té a chuir ar fáíiad go níonna tre braba chorab. Agus sin písa a sliocht as an úrscéal.
Bláid Máirín is faoin na cusan sin go háid, agus féidir coppla scéalaí a bhhaine sa sin.
Going to my bed was a current of course from Dowch, live on shop. It's just a current new them piece of then all the times of when agus when shula agus mar sin de hart ar náid agus ne ken go háirt a man slé Liam agus Tomás Ó Flaithearta. Now Tommy chun leabhar just béal you know because Tommy chud céige go donna cailé rá cé go bhfuil mé an seo le beagna ceach go bliain. Now I'm a walker and I've walked a lot, you know, around here, and this is a wonderful place to walk. You know, there are lots of paths and trails and, you know, little roads all over the place. But I'm trying to pick out things that relate to the stories that, you know, we have read. You know, the short stories in particular, a lot of them relate to the area that we've just walked through, and particularly Gort na gCapall and the area around the cliff, you know, where just at the Gorgian, the back of the Gorgian, you know, there's a cliff there, and there's ivy on the top, and there are references to the cliff and the ivy in a lot of stories, you know. And one of the features we passed through on the walk was the Thorlach, you know, we call it the Loch. You know, it's a place that fills up with water in wintertime, or when the water table is high and, you know, it floods up and it makes a lake, you know, and sometimes in winter it could be there for a while, maybe a week or something like that. And sometimes it can block the road, you know, so that maybe when the children were going to school, people would have to go a different way. And when they did, they took a walk through the Craigs. And there's another path directly south of the school here, and going right down to gCapall, you know, and that's a nice walk as well. You know, there are nice features and nice school, nice wildlife, you know, lots of flowers and things. And also there were lots of birds in that area, you know, in the area around the loch. There's a lot of greenery, as you could see as you pass that way. There's plenty of space for birds, and, you know, in the stories there's reference to so many different kinds of birds. You know, there's been a hawk, and there's been a skylark, and a load of them anyway, and they've been in English and Irish. Now, one story I remember is the one to do with the lake. Now, it's in both English and Irish. It's in Dúil in Irish. It's uiscéal, and the other one is the Enchanted Water. That's in one of the books of short stories. And it's a story about a wild duck who tried to be tamed. You know, he was found like a little wild duck, a little baby wild duck. And the people took him in the story, they took him into their own yard, and they reared him with their own ducks, their own baby ducks. So he grew up with, you know, the ducks. But as he grew up, it turns out that he's still wild. You know, it's just the idea that it's nature versus nurture, you know. And sliocht an dúchas ná an eilehhaint. And sin a scéal faoin Lochlainn, the story about the book, about the ducks. And then it's a lovely story because it ends in a love story. And it ends when the duck from the tame ones, you know, one of them hits up with the wild duck, the grown-up wild duck, and then they make off together, and they have their own little clutch of ducks in the lake just under the cliff. But the description of it's a very vivid description of the cliff and the ivy and the water, you know, but at the same time it's glorified into a bigger lake, and it sounds more like a bit like Glendalough, you know. It's like half Glendalough and half gCapall, you know. But it's a good story anyway, yeah. And it's a nice love story. Okay, well, I see now, where was I? Then we went down, as we went down the road, we were on the road passing the loch, and then down the road, remember, we turned to the right and we went on a pathway, and that's a pathway down to fields. There are a lot of those little roads around in Éamon, and they usually end up in fields, but sometimes then there are stiles that will bring you through to the main road, or through, you know, out to maybe to the shore, or wherever. And in this case, there's a name. A lot of the pathways have names, and that one is on Crongara, the Crongara. And a Crongara was a unit of land in Irish measurements, you know, and it's 16 acres of land, but it's a unit of land, like somebody would have 1 Crongara, 2 Crongara. Instead of saying, you know, you'd have 16 acres or you'd have 40 acres or whatever, you know, it was more Crongara and Cathrone. There was another thing. Years ago, I did the census. I took the census on the islands, you know. And in Inishmaan, everybody gave the land, you know, you'd have to write down how much land you had. And they'd always give the amount in Crongra or in Cathron. And that was the old Irish measurement, you know. But that road is called in Crongra. Now, I don't know which 16 acres of land it refers to. You know, it could be one side of the road or the other, or it could be where we finish, you know, where the road finishes and you go in over the stiles, you know, into other land, you know. And some of that, I think some of the part as it comes out towards the mainland, towards the main road, that some of that is newer, I'd say. Some of that, those little bits of paths are newer. But there was always a path going through there to go to the shore, to go to the North Shore, because the North Shore was very important, and that was where the kelp was made, you know. So if you remember Tom Flaherty's story, The Kelp Burners, in that, he comes from Gort and he comes down across, and he would have gone on. There's another road branching off this road coming up. It goes to the left and it will bring you down to the Dooling Lawn, you know, where the big stones are at the beach and all the horrible mini dolmens are made. They're disgusting. But anyway, can't help that. But that was the way that Tom Flaherty went to go to the kelp burning, you know, when he was a young boy. And he gives an eyewitness account of everything that was done, you know, making the kelp and everything. And I'm sure that's one of the very few written eyewitness accounts of kelp burning. Now that was an important thing to the island. It was a big industry, you know, where the seaweed was burnt and they got out some kind of powder and they sent it away, you know, it was sent away to the mainland, and it was, I think it's something Mhic O'Connell told me one time, what they made out of it, alginates, is it? Yeah, something like that, yeah. But yeah, it was very important to the life of the islands back in the day, you know. Now, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yes, on the way up the road then, that was the road coming up towards here. Now, we went up the Corca Moor, the big hill, and then on the right-hand side, you saw a big stone house, and that was the house, that was the teacher's residence. And that house belonged in his time, and then the time when the O'Flahertys were going to school. That's where the house of David O'Callaghan lived. You know, he lived there in the residence. And David O'Callaghan was a teacher in the primary school, and he was very important in the lives of the O'Flahertys. He was very influenced by them, I'd say, and they always had great respect for him. Both of them have, you know, acknowledged, you know, that he had great influence on them, and you know, they thought he was a great man. And now he was a Gaelic leaguer, and he was a land leaguer, I think, or he supported the land people. And also he had very socialist ideas, I think. But the priest who was the manager of the school fell out with them, and you know, there was a big dispute and whatever. And that is the story that the Éamon Ó Flaithearta's novel Skerrit is based on, you know, and it's said that the story is reasonably true, you know. Brendan O'Hare said it somewhere that Éamon Ó Flaherty had told him that the story was as true as could be, you know, in the novel, you know. So anyhow, that brings us to the school, and the school we're in now is not the school where the O'Flahertys went to school. It was across the road. There's a ruin across the road, and that was the old school, yeah. And let's see now. Oh yeah, I was also going to tell you a little bit about the other path that went back to gCapall, and that was through the Craigs. You just went down from here, just down a little bit there, and down. I'm sure Fiona knows well. She's often ran home that way, you know, down the Craigs, and it's a very nice area. It's very nice to walk on, you know, limestone pavement, and there are, you know, clints and grikes and the scalpany. And that brings us back to the story. If you remember, somebody mentioned it. I think it was somebody mentioned it during the day at one of the talks. Boa scalp, and boa scalp is a cow that gets stuck in he gets his feet stuck in a grike, and then his legs were broken, and it was at the time it was a terrible thing to happen to a family, because the loss of their cow, like that's Tom Ó Flaithearta's story, and the boa scalp is Tom Ó Flaithearta's story, and that has been written in both English and Irish. And the other one, Éamon Ó Flaithearta writes about the boss and bow. That's the one from the cliff where the calf is thrown over the cliff, and the cow follows the cliff and follows the cliff over, and he gets lost, you know. But the point is that it was such a loss and such a disaster, boa scalp, you know, when some people would call, you know, if it happened, and it can happen anywhere. If you're walking on the Craigs, you know, you could break your ankle yourself, handy enough, you know, and it can happen an animal, you know, that they'll get stuck in a scalp. Now, in the story, like they told about how the father had tried to fill in the cracks, you know, the grikes, but sometimes, you know, when they were looking for rabbits and things, the grikes would be open again, and you know, it can happen easily that an animal would get lost and he'd have to be destroyed. But in this particular story, it had a nice ending, because they were able to save the meat of the cow, and so they had a big feast. And also money came from America at the same time. So, you know, it put a good ending to it. But in general, if a family lost a cow, it would be a big disaster, because, you know, there were big families at that time, and, you know, they survived on milk and potatoes and fish and things like that. So it would have been, you know, a big thing. But anyway, as well as that story didn't happen on this Craig. It happened up on the high road, and up Corcanaquella, the hill of the wood. You know, there's a kind of hazel place, and that's that particular Craig. But it can happen anywhere, yeah. So anyhow, that brings us back down to gCapall again, and that's about it, I think. Now, I don't know if anybody wants to ask any questions.
Yeah, that's
Aige gwingo cratu Gurler gono sili the ben A horals gan changu Is no door vi shilile shis Snúde cheistí sa cás gur fón lá.